We are Burning Youth, a blog collaborative of young adults who believe that the light outshines the darkness and our voices outlast the voices in our heads. We are louder.
When you feel awkward, you should run away. You should hide from the situation and from the person that's making you feel awkward, because your anxiety will always rule you, and you are your anxiety, and you will never be able to stop feeling scared of awkward situations. So you just need to live with it and move on.
And now we're going to debunk in this episode number 5, why none of what Abby just said is true.
Thanks.
So welcome to another episode of Burning Youth Podcast. I'm Katie, and this is Abby over here. You can't see her, but she's here, like the stars in the daytime.
And you are...
I said my name, didn't I?
Yeah, I know, but they can't see you either.
Okay, well, I'm just like the dark side of the moon. So, alright. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about what to do when you feel awkward and how to deal with that. This is going to be your instruction manual for every holiday gathering that you will be perpetrated with this holiday season as you sit in the corner at your great aunt's house with, like, you know, some piece of food and a napkin that someone forced upon you that you didn't want, but you felt obligated to take it. So now you're kind of sitting there and, like, someone's asking, your, like, uncle's asking you something about sports and college and why you don't have a boyfriend and what you're going to do with the rest of your life. This is how you handle those situations. We're going to get into that. First, we will note that there is snow on the ground outside. There is several inches of fresh powder here in Vermont as we kind of near the holiday season. So I find myself in a lot of, and that was random, the snow. I just felt like you guys needed to know, you know, like it's an important detail. It's a detail that could have been said, so why not say it?
So, I don't like snow, by the way. That's another detail that's important and random. I don't like snow. I want to live in Florida. So let's talk about being awkward. I know the feeling very well.
I feel like a lot of us do. A lot of us in the Burning Youth community are writers or bloggers or some kind of artisty person, and we like to hermit away in our offices or our bedrooms and not really talk to anyone beyond our immediate siblings and parents. So, and of course we have some amazing friends and contributors that are more like outgoing and love being around people, and they're awesome too. But I feel like whether you're like super talkative and outgoing and love being around people, or you like just kind of hermiting away in your metaphorical log cabin in the middle of the wilderness, I feel like we all sometimes feel awkward in social situations or situations with family and friends, whatever. So I feel like for me personally, I know I feel really awkward in social situations where I have to like initiate conversation with someone. I a lot of times feel like I am not articulate and I sound nervous because in my head I am freaking out trying to figure out what I'm saying and how to say it. And one of the difficulties too is that because I actually talk quite a bit and make myself initiate conversation, that a lot of people look at me as and tell me that oh, you're so confident, you know, I wish I was as outgoing as you are, but in my head I'm like, am I saying this right? Am I even making any sense? Because I'm really nervous to initiate conversation and I don't know if I'm even making any sense. So I feel like, I mean, how do you feel in social situations?
I usually don't even initiate the conversation. I know I should, but I don't because I can barely say, how are you? And then, like, just ideas do not come to me. So I don't know how to start a conversation a lot of times or what to ask a person about. But I feel like even when I'm with a person who feels the same way or asks me a question that if I were asking it, I would think I sounded dumb, like, they don't sound dumb to me.
Right.
So it's like the same thing that we talked about in the last podcast about how it seems that way to you. Like, when you say something, it seems awkward to you, but it doesn't actually feel awkward if somebody else was saying it to you.
Right. Like, there have been times when I feel really awkward talking to someone about something, like whatever. Just someone that I don't know very well. Maybe I'm asking someone for directions. I don't understand what they say the first time, so I ask them to re-explain something again because I didn't get it. Now, a lot of times in my head, I'm like, I probably sound like such an idiot because I didn't even understand it the first time they said it. Now I'm asking again. I must seem like a total ditz. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm like this. I can't even imagine what they must think of me. Most likely, they're not thinking anything about you because you have to put yourself, like you were just saying, in the shoes of the other person. If someone asked me for advice or like directions or something of that sort and then didn't understand something I said and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get what you said. Can you say that again?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
I would not have one more thought about it. I would see it as totally normal.
Right. Or like something stupidly simple, like when you meet someone saying like, how old are you? Like, if someone asked me how old am I, I'd be like 19, whatever. Don't even think of it. But yet if I met somebody and asked them how old are you, I would immediately think like, that's weird. Why do you ask them how old they are? Does that sound weird? Do I sound awkward? Do I sound like I'm desperate for conversation? Like,
Right.
all those things occur to me, even though with the other person you don't even think of it.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, that's normal. Whatever.
Right. And a lot of times I think in situations of, like, let's say a holiday party with family and friends and people that your family knows that are asking you questions about, like, so are you going to school? What are you doing for a career? Do you have a boyfriend? You know, what are you doing with the next year of your life? What's your New Year's resolution? And you don't have answers to any of those questions, or you have answers that you feel won't satisfy them. I think it's important to remember that you don't have to please other people, and other people cannot validate you. And even if they try to make it seem that way, like their validation is worth something, that's actually not true, because the only validation you need is that of your creator, who has empowered you to charge forth into what you feel called to do. And if someone thinks that's dumb or not that great, or if someone thinks it's strange that you want to take up a certain career, or that you don't have a boyfriend, or that you aren't in college, or that you decided to go to college, any of it, it doesn't matter. And so feeling more comfortable and owning who you are, owning that situation, being gentler on yourself, and not being so hard on yourself in that, oh, I have to do this and I have to sound a certain way and I have to get a certain reaction. You cannot control other people's reaction. You can only control how you feel inwardly.
Right. Yeah.
And I think another thing, like you were just saying, how the other person who comes off as confident when they initiate conversation and say, "What's your name? How old are you? What's your favorite color? What town are you from?" They might sound super confident, but in their head they could be screaming and freaking out just as much as you are about meeting someone new and initiating conversation in an unknown situation. They don't know how you're going to react. They don't know if you're going to be a nice person or a rude person, so they're taking a risk on you just as much as you're taking a risk on them by talking to them. So one of the things is, when you feel awkward, just own the awkwardom. Own it and be like, you know what? I feel awkward right now because I'm stepping completely out of my comfort zone, and that is totally okay because it's a place of growth. That's a quote I'd heard an interview with the rapper Andy Mineo, and he said something in the interview about how his album is called Uncomfortable, his latest album, and he was saying how being uncomfortable is often a place of growth. And I think that's so true, because often situations that we feel uncomfortable in are situations that we can actually use to help us grow and become stronger in that area.
Yeah. Very true. And I feel like a lot of times, like you were saying, owning feeling awkward isn't necessarily like identifying with your awkward. So like, or your anxiety. If you feel anxious about a situation, you are not what you feel in a situation. So that anxious feeling does not become you. So it's not like something that you can carry around everywhere and say, well, this debilitates me because so that I can't have a conversation or, you know, talk to this person or initiate a conversation because everybody feels uncomfortable in some areas of their lives, in some situations, and that's just something that, depending on who you are and depending on your personality, you either fight through it or you fly from it, and I think everyone has the capacity to get through it in their own time and in their own way. And it's definitely not an insurmountable thing.
Right.
So that when you do feel awkward or anxious, that it makes you a stronger person, spiritually and just mentally, to persevere through that. And you can notice how you're feeling and just kind of, you know, not be hard on yourself, but just be gentle with yourself, be guiding, and just feel like, you know, I feel anxious right now, but I'm going to just breathe through it and get through it, and I'll feel so much more confident if I do than if I run away from the situation.
Right. And also at the same time realizing and acknowledging silently in your own mind that I'm the only one experiencing my awkward feelings.
Yeah.
The people around you are not standing there like, oh my gosh, she is so awkward. Mm-hmm. You are the only one experiencing that in your own head. And even though you think everyone in the room is noticing how you're awkward, really no one is. Because all around you, all day, all the time, there are people who feel just as awkward. And when you're talking to them, you're not standing there judging them. So why do you think other people are judging you? So it also comes down to thinking better of others and being gentler on yourself, like you were just saying. I love the phrase, and I can't really remember where I heard it, but treating yourself like you were your own child.
Yeah.
So if you were a child that was in your care, and that child had those feelings or felt awkward in a situation, you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, why were you so awkward? I can't believe what a horrible kid you are. That would be like abusive. You would never dream of scolding a little kid like that and like verbally beating up on someone. You wouldn't do that to a good friend. So don't do it to yourself. See that you are God's valuable little child. And so when you beat up on yourself like that just for feeling an emotion that comes and goes, that makes our Father sad. He wants you to feel empowered and owning who you are, even in the awkward situations.
Yeah, and another thing is awkward silences and why they're okay. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit more redemptive in my old age with myself. Not entirely, because I still feel very awkward in a lot of situations, especially with conversation and not knowing how to speak. But there's also a degree of feeling like sometimes, you know, there are silences that are awkward, and you might feel like they're awkward, and a lot of times they're not for the other person, and even if they are for the other person, they will end the awkward silence. Like, if they're feeling so awkward, why don't they just talk? Like, this is my logic, okay? My logic is that when I'm with a person who is also very quiet and reserved like me, and if they're not talking about something, and I just feel this sense of, like, okay, comfort level, it's like we're okay with not talking. We can just sit there and not talk to each other, and that's okay because every minute doesn't have to be entertained with conversation on the one hand, and then on the other hand, if they really don't like the awkward silence, then allow them to take steps to end the awkward silence. So I don't even know if that's good advice, but
I think it is.
Kind
It's
of how I
very
feel with a lot of it.
practical, brutal advice.
Brutal advice, yeah.
No, it's very true, and I think one of the things that
like,
you
don't have
mentioned.
to please everyone all the time. Like,
Exactly.
if you're feeling like that other person is feeling awkward because I haven't said anything, it's
So
not
you almost put
necessarily
yourself
your
in
job.
you put yourself in a position of suddenly you, by doing nothing, are actually perpetrating something
Yeah.
upon the other person, which is not true at all.
Yeah.
So it's making yourself realize that you are not in control of everything. You are not in control of everyone's happiness and upholding this entire conversation. It's a two-way street, and it's totally okay for a silence to interject itself. It's something that I struggle with because I feel very, 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 very awkward in silences. More than anything else, more than conversing, is when there is like a silence and I feel like the other person wants me to talk to them and I'm not really sure what to say or how to say it. And a lot of time awkward silences are hard to break too, because once they happen, it's like,
what do you do?
What do you do?
clear your
It's like you
throat? Do
freeze
say,
up
"Okay,
like
so
a deer in the headlights.
yeah,
And like you were just saying, that it's not your responsibility. Own who you are. Own that it's not your responsibility.
yeah."
And that it's okay to say nothing.
Like,
Sometimes
is it suddenly your
it's
job
okay.
to make that person feel comfortable?
Right.
It's not.
It's their own job.
They feel
to
uncomfortable,
feel
then
comfortable.
they can do something to make themselves feel less uncomfortable.
Exactly. So let's overview. So we talked about what to do when you feel awkward, and basically what that means for each of us is that you really own who you are and kind of reject this idea that you're responsible for everything. And also realizing that other people feel awkward. It's not just you. It's not a situation that you have to embrace and think that it's, a problem you have. You are not your anxiety. Your anxiety is just a word to describe a feeling that comes and can go if you let go of it. And the letting go of it can be way more difficult than it sounds, but it is possible, and it's something that we can choose to do each and every day.
So to celebrate this episode, instead of having a quote, we're going to end with an awkward silence.
It's rough.
It is. But we all know that music makes awkward silences better. So if you can play music when you're having an awkward silence.
Just whip out the iPod, turn it up, and
Yep.
press play on that Disney soundtrack.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Disney soundtracks? Even though that's not what we're playing right now.
It isn't, but just start playing like, I don't know, Beauty and the Beast soundtrack or something. One of those like really loud sing-along ones, and I'm sure that will make the situation better if everything else fails.
For sure. Well, goodbye everyone. We don't know how to say goodbye because we're very awkward. We don't know how to end conversations, but we'll just say goodbye and hope that you don't think badly of us. So
Yeah, we'll be-
have a nice
Night.
weekend. Is it weekend?
I don't know what it is. Yeah, basically. No.
Scared.
Now they're probably gonna think we're awkward.
Probably. Oh well.